In this video, we're going to go over an ER modeling exercise about users and groups like computer user, computer group, and sort of access to software packages. So the description goes, users are assigned to groups. A user may belong to more than one group. Permissions to use various software packages are assigned to groups. For example, the accounting group will have permission to use Excel and Word. The admin assistant group will have permission to use Word. The statistics group will have permission to use Access and Excel. Okay, so we are going to first identify the entities and come up with some properties for them. And that's typically the sort of more or less the nouns in the sentences. So we have clearly users, and we'll always assign them some user ID, and then there'll be some kind of name. We might break it up into first name and last name, or we just might have full name, but let's do first name and last name. And I don't know, we might have a department or manager they report to, or some such. Let's just leave it at name. Okay. So we have an entity with some properties. Okay. Then what else have we got? The other one of the other things, nouns mentioned up here is a group. So we'll have some kind of group ID. We love IDs in databases. We'll have some kind of group name, maybe some kind of group description. Um, there we go. And maybe the group also might belong to a department or it might span departments. We don't know. But don't mean I don't want to bring in department into this. It's not in the description. But there we go. And then there's some kind of uh, software packages. So let's just say packages. So that's the word, the Excel, the access, things like that. And so we'll have, I don't know, package ID and um, maybe some where it's located, location on the network or something. Where do we find that? Um, and what else? Some name. Probably should have put that before that network location, but package name, package description, just whatever. Some kind of properties that you expect these things to have. Okay. You might need the licensing or something. There's stuff. Okay. Those are the basic nouns. And then the debatable one is because now the next thing we're going to do is relationships. And one of the at least nouns that are appearing up here in the description is permission. And then comes up, do you want to uh, describe permission as an entity, or do you want to think about it as a relationship uh, between, say, a group? They're talking about, a group having permission to excel. So do you want to think of uh, a permission as another entity or as the relationship between the group and the package? And in some sense, it doesn't matter. What matters is what tables you're ultimately going to come up with um, when you are done and ready to make the database. So I'm going to say permission for a relationship. Okay. So now the next thing we want to do is find the relationship among the entities. And then it says express the relationship in two short sentences, such as a painter makes many paintings. A painting is made by one painter. So we want to establish what kind of relationship. Is it a one to many, a many to many, what have you? Okay. So we have a relationship between user and group, that a user belongs to a group, but it said quite explicitly users are assigned to groups. A user may belong to more than one group, and just the very nature of the word group implies that it has more than one user. So we will say a user belongs to many groups, and not just uh, many means more than one. And a group contains, I don't know, right verb is many users. So that's going to be the relationship between user and group is going to be many to many. And when it comes to bridge tables, the next question, many to many relationships are going to require some kind of bridge table, or I've also seen it called association table. Okay. So what else is there? There's a relationship. This idea of permission is a relationship between the group and the package. And we see here in the example that uh, accounting group has access permission to Excel and Word. So a group has permission to more than one package. And then we see that the accounting group and the statistics group both have permission to Excel. So that's defining another many-to-many relationship. A group, I don't know why I'm capitalizing them for sure, but a group has permission to many packages. A package, I'll just say, is used by many groups. So another many to many. Now, when I did this in class, people raised the question of users having permission. Now, in the description, there is no direct relationship between users and packages. That users are assigned in groups, it says, and then it says groups are given the permissions to the packages. And so then uh, a to determine if a user has permission, then we would sort of in this database situation, we would go through a a set of joins to relate the user to the groups, and then the groups uh, to the packages, and that's how we would uh, do that. That would be that sort of like a two-step relation, that users have a relationship to group and group has a relationship to packages. So there is like a two-step relationship in this description. But some raise the question of users having permission. And in a computer network, that is a thing one can do. Um, so I said, yeah, okay, it's not explicit. So let's write that, not explicit in description above, but it is a thing in real life that a there are permissions at the user level. Again, not in the description above. The description above has permissions being assigned to the groups, but it is possible to, in a computer network situation, to assign permissions to a user. So a user has permission to a package. Not what I had in mind, but reasonable to many again, many packages, trying to get the sort of multiplicity here. And a package may have permission granted to it, I don't know, for many users. So again, this last one was not explicit in the description, but does reflect a possibility in the real world. So when it came up in class, I said, okay, I accept that, just so long as we're clear the assumptions that we're making. Okay. Which are bridge tables. Bridge tables or association tables are for many to many. And so it's all of them. Okay, all of these relationships, group to user, group to package, user to package, those are all many to many relationships. They would all require bridge table. And now I'm going to try to make some drawing here with my little snippet tool. Let me get into black. Okay, so I have a user entity. So I'm going to represent that. Say there's my user, and I'm going to have a user ID. And I'm going to have a group. And there were other things down here, but the IDs are going to be important for our relationships. So that's the only thing I'm going to make explicit. So I had a group, and it had a group ID. And I had a package. And these were my main, and that had a package ID, or I'll just say pack ID. Okay. And then I had relationships. I had a relationship between user and group. So I'll call it, I usually just often use the two entity names and one big long name. So here's a user group, and it has a user ID and a group ID to make the many to many relationship. And then there was a group package. I'll just call it group pack table, bridge table, and it had a group ID and a package ID. And then again, that last bridge table, which was not explicit in the description, but we'll take it, is a user package bridge table, and that had a user ID and a package ID. And then we usually put them in, I don't know, blue. So connection of the user to the group is through the bridge table. So the user ID matches the user ID and the group ID matches the group ID. So that is my user to group relationship through the bridge table. And I don't always draw the bridge table in the ER diagram, but I leave it as an option. And then again in the exercise that I did with the students, they wanted it sort of explicit, so fine. Then the group to package relationship was through the group pack bridge table. And so the group ID connected to the group ID and the pack ID connected to the pack ID. And then this more direct. And so we can see here that everything without the user pack, everything would be connected. So it was, if you have some table floating off by itself, that's usually indicates something went wrong. And So without user pack, everything's connected. So it sort of could be all right. And it is a way to run a network of doing all permissions through groups, but you can assign permissions through to a directly to a user, and that would require its own little bridge table because that's also many to many. And that was this user pack, and so then connect user to user and pack to pack. And so that was the ER model. So that was this exercise of users, groups, and packages and permissions to packages. We identified user, group, and package. If we had talked about permission as another entity, then that entity would be correspond to the bridge table, and it would have um, one to many that sort of so as we relate user to group, it is a or put sorry groups to packages. That's where the permission comes in. Group to packages, that would that's a many to many. But we could say a given permission, if we're going to say that's a unique thing, then it is related to one group and one package. So the it doesn't matter whether you call the bridge table the result of a relationship or the result of its own entity, so long as you get the tables to the endpoint of the tables when you're end. But we said user group and packages were our entities. We said user to group was a many to many relationship, group to package was a many to many relationship, and then we put in as well an additional um, user to package, also many to many. All of those were many to many, so they all required a bridge or association table. And then I made my crappy snipping tool ER diagram here to represent all that we talked about. So that's all for this one. Thanks for your attention.